Some mixed reads on the consumer today. New consumer confidence data at the top of the hour topped expectations. But executives from Whirlpool, Procter & Gamble calling out a pressured consumer on their calls, while Royal Caribbean shares are falling despite saying bookings have accelerated since last quarter. Joining us now with his top consumer picks is Neuberger Berman portfolio manager John San Marco. It's great to have you, John. So how do you navigate what seems like a little bit of a fractured consumer environment? Pressure at the low end, high end remains strong, confidence comes back.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on. I think that's a great setup. I think, there's a lot of mixed data out there that I would characterize as the consumer being in somewhat of a fragile condition. You saw the confidence data improve sequentially. There's some encouraging stuff in there, like their thoughts around inflation and the job market, but it's still down. It's still depressed by historical standards. So I think, we're one additional shock away, one confidence shock away from the consumer retrenching again. But, I'd characterize the condition as okay. There are some opportunities for some winners within that backdrop.
Like what? What do you like right now?
We really like O'Reilly Auto Parts. We think it's a great way to play defense with growth. It's it's the leader within auto parts retail, which is, from my perspective, the most tariff-insulated area of retail. Pricing power there is not infinite, but they compete mostly on service, on speed of delivery, on parts availability, all areas they're winning and winning more today than they were a year ago. So, we think whatever happens with tariffs and the consumer health, they ought to be well positioned. Home Depot is another name, perhaps more on the cyclical side. The market is pricing, what is a stubbornly depressed housing activity market. But I'd note that we exited 2022 with 7% mortgage rates and existing home sales around 4 million units. That's about where we are today, almost 3 years later. So some of that lagged impact on industry demand has been depressed. And then on the company specific side, they've executed exceptionally well. Set up very well for when the cycle turns.
I was going to say, but we've been waiting for the cycle to turn for a while now, and that doesn't necessarily happen. It has to happen for Home Depot to work, doesn't it?
The cycle has been painfully stubborn, and that's fair in some respects. Not to be too Pollyanna, I think it's so bad it's good. The more home projects that are getting deferred now, the more home projects that will are getting pent up, and we will get those eventually. But to your point, for sure, to sit here and hold the stock should this cycle sort of persistently never come, that is the risk to the stock. I think that's very well discounted, and I think there's enough company-specific self-help that they can do. That is, certainly as we move into the back half of 25, I think your downside case is the status quo, that the business, is back to sort of eking out modest growth. And my base case would be that you get a little cyclical help and those kickers that, from all the work they've done around M&A and self-improvement.
John, a couple of questions about beauty, given sort of the upturn in Ulta and the repair work that EL has been working on. What's behind that? How much is left to go? And is that a comment about some kind of consumer resiliency?
Yeah, as perhaps like taking a step back, what I really like about Ulta that I think is unique to the beauty category is as a house of brands where you can get all brands, all categories, prestige and mass. That's a unique positioning. I think this is one of the few retail verticals where the bargaining power is within the distribution, because consumers want to come there and try and shop across all these price points. So I like Ulta's right to win. Now that said, we're coming out of a year where they were, I think, arguably rightfully left for dead by the market. Competition was proliferating. As you pointed out, the category had its own troubles and it had slowed back down to earth. And then they had just myriad self-inflicted operational wounds. And fast forward to today, there's a new team in place. Execution is visibly better. In last year's most troublesome competitors have either plateaued or paused or in some cases retrenched. So, I think the category I would expect to be somewhere around stable. But I think Ulta's performance within that category, I think they'll start to demonstrate their right to win in what, secularly is a very attractive category.
While the